Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host, Travis and John. John, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, man. That was a great podcast. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. Uke Mike was a cool dude.
Yeah, today we have Uke Mike. You might recognize him from the Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu YouTube channel. He's usually the Uke for Jordan. And then also he's one of the co-hosts for Jordan Talks Jiu-Jitsu. And he is currently a blue belt under Jordan Preisinger up in Ontario, Canada. And this was a great conversation. I really wanted to talk to Mike because in the podcast, he talks a lot about like mental health and like how jiu-jitsu's really helped him overcome a lot of, adversity in his life. And he's a super cool guy. And it was just a great conversation, just a couple blue belts talking about being blue belts, so we go heavy into like the mental health issue and how jiu-jitsu can help with that. We are not saying get off your medication, you know what I mean? But jiu-jitsu could help. And if you know someone that's going through some stuff and that they need something to help them, jiu-jitsu could be that thing for them. You know what I mean?
For sure. Just another form of medication.
Yeah, so it was a whole lot of fun. Leading up to this interview, Mike was a little nervous because he's never been a guest on a podcast before. He's only been on Jordan's podcast as a host. So I think he did a fantastic job, John. What about you?
I think he did great, man. I didn't even see any nerves. I thought he did fine.
Yeah, so everything's going to be down in the description below if you guys want to go follow him or talk to him and listen to his podcast and his story. I think he's actually a great host and a great guest, so hopefully you guys really enjoy this. Remember to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify. That is the biggest way to help the podcast out besides sharing it with other people, because that's how people actually find us for sponsorships and whatnot. We get recommended a whole lot more. So give us a 5-star review on those. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Send us a patch if you guys want to exchange patches. We still have a butt ton of patches. If people want to go and buy them or exchange them, we can exchange patches. Someone just sent us one. If you guys pay attention to our stories, we put them on the stories and whatnot. So, but John, you got anything else?
Nothing, man. And everybody enjoy the holiday.
Yeah, thank you guys. Holiday?
Yeah, next weekend, man.
What's next weekend? Oh, the 4th.
Man.
Jesus, man. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. Hope you guys enjoy this. Oh, also, quick side note, Mike's internet cuts out right at the end of the episode, so we have the last 3 minutes of it's going to be pure audio because his internet kept kicking him off of the interview. So if you guys are still there at the end, it's all audio. So, but other than that, we don't have anything else. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching, and hope you guys enjoyed. I really had a great conversation with him. So thanks, guys. Peace.
Support for Elbows Tight is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls.
That's a lot of balls, Johnny. When Manscaped reached out to work with us, I instantly thought, yes, what a deal. I've been using Manscaped products for a while now, and when they mentioned helping out with the podcast, I thought it was a no-brainer. I have the Lawnmower 4.0 now, but I had the Lawnmower 3.0 and absolutely loved it. Also, most people think about Manscaped as just trimmers, but really they have ball deodorant, ball toner, the weed whacker, which is your favorite thing, right, John?
Yeah, I love the weed whacker. Look, I'm about to hit 45 years old, so I got hair growing out of everywhere now. So it's coming out my ears. I'm like, man, where is that weed whacker? It's definitely my favorite.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ETP20 at Manscaped. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ETP20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools to get the job done with Manscaped. Yeah. So, but you were saying you work out quite a bit?
Yeah, mostly at just doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I used to lift weights. I used to be 235 pounds. At 5'7", that was a pretty big boy. But my frame couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? So I slimmed down. I think I'm a sleek 155 at the moment. But when I started jiu-jitsu, I was about 220 pounds. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I need to get there because I'm 5'7", but I'm probably like good 185 right now.
Yeah, but you wear it well. You wear it well. It's like I'm 5'8" and I'm like 210, but I mean I feel like I don't look like I'm over 200 pounds until I stand up and you see my dad bod, and it's like, but it's good. It gives me lots of pressure.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, that's what I'm lacking is pressure. I'm working on that now.
I think it comes with the more time you train, the more you realize like 140 pounds can still deliver like mind crushing pressure. You know what I mean? Like it's just all about
100%.
It's all about
100%.
where you point it. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I couldn't understand when I first started was these guys I'd be rolling were half my size, or these girls were half my size and just smashing the shit out of me. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that somebody 110 pounds could feel like they're 210 pounds.
Right.
It was amazing to me. It intrigued me.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, well, before we go on any further into your story, let's go ahead and introduce you for the people at home. Go ahead and give like a quick who you are and something, interesting that people would want to know about you. Let's switch it up a little bit.
You bet. My name's Uke Mike. I'm on Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu's channel. You might recognize me from there. I'm his Uke. I get thrown around, choked unconscious, you name it. I grew up in a small town, Trenton, Ontario. It's mainly an army town, Air Force town. Really not that much interesting about my upbringing. Moved out west, lived out there for 10 years in Edmonton. Doing tattoos. I'm a tattoo artist, body piercer, part-time. And other than that, I'm addicted to jiu-jitsu. I'm in there hook, line, and sinker. They caught me.
So out west, where is that in relation to the U.S.? Like, because we're in Washington State. Where would that be in like relation to us?
Right below. Geez, I can't remember the state. I know guns are legal. You can carry them on you. I just can't remember the name. Montana.
Montana.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Montana.
Yeah, yeah.
Which to me, being Canadian, sounded odd to me when this person told me that, because we can't have open carry or even carry here whatsoever. I'm a gun lover myself. I like to go to the range and shoot the pistol all the time. But it just, the story the person told me was they were driving and somebody cut them off and they went to reach for their gun on their dash, and I was like, what do you mean you have a gun on your dash? Like, that's never heard of that in my life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing about America. It's a constitutional right. Everyone has the right until you have the right taken away from you to carry a gun. So
yeah.
It's pretty cool. I think when we hear from other people from other countries, stuff like that, they're like I've never shot a gun. I've never even seen a gun in person. I'm like, what? Like, yeah, they're just not as popular.
Oh, it's the same with the people coming up now. When I was a kid, we used to go hunting, fishing, do all that sort of thing. But now, if you ask the average person, I don't think the average teenager, I don't think they go hunting with their father as much around here anyways. You know what I mean? It's not so close-knit as it was when I was a kid.
That's true.
I'm fine.
I'd say that's probably the same here as well.
Yeah. I grew up in Vegas where you didn't really hunt. There's a little bit of fishing, but it's mostly outdoor activities like dirt biking, just playing outside, things like that, riding bikes, skateboarding. We did a lot of like extreme sports, you know what I mean? Like BMX and rollerblading and whatnot. But we're in the desert, so you don't really hunt in the desert. You're just trying to survive. So it's like, So, yeah. But so what got you into jiu-jitsu? Like what made you, I know your story, if people haven't heard it from the podcast, it's actually a pretty incredible story. I think it's very inspiring for a lot of people. So let's go over what first got you into jiu-jitsu.
Well, the first time I started taking jiu-jitsu or started going to jiu-jitsu classes, it was Japanese jiu-jitsu in the 90s. Right after UFC 2, I remember seeing that on pay-per-view, and it blew me away that this tiny guy in a gi could just kill all these guys. I couldn't believe it. So I tried to find, and there was no Brazilian jiu-jitsu anywhere in our area. I don't even know if there's a black belt in Ontario. That's the province I live in Canada. Here, I don't even think there was a black belt back then. So I found a Japanese jiu-jitsu place, and we did a little bit of groundwork. It was more like judo / karate. things like that. And then I didn't stick around there very long, a couple of years, maybe got a blue belt. But then I was a really bad addict. Oxycontin, oxycodone, you name it, the type of pill, I used to take it. And I needed something to fill that hole when I quit. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was right there for me. It kept me going, and that was the hardest part during the pandemic, is when everything shut down. I almost slid right back into that horrible hole, right? So I was terribly addicted to painkillers. Yeah.
So what was that first class like? And were you already clean when you first started? Like, you picked it back up again? Like, how long were you clean already?
I was clean about a month. And it was quite a shock to the system, because I went from laying around literally doing nothing, just being high all day on prescription painkillers, to, getting the shit kicked out of me for 2 hours a night. And when I do something, I go all in. So I was going 6 times a week, twice a day if I could, trying not to vomit during the first month. It was just torture, but I stuck it out. And if I did not have that, I can honestly say that I would not be here today if it wasn't for Jordan's school, because he's really the only jiu-jitsu place around here in the area. There's a couple smaller ones a little further away, but closer to me. I'm really glad I ran into Jordan's gym. It saved my life, 100%.
That's interesting, too, because you would think, for me anyway, I'm like, man, painkillers and jiu-jitsu, normally when I get done with a class, I'm like, oh, Jesus, I'm in some good, I'm sore. But ibuprofen has been my my go-to.
Yeah, I was
100%. Yeah, I should be sponsored by Advil.
For what?
I take that on a daily basis. Yeah.
I had like a bitchin' headache in Thursday's class, like to the point where it was like stopping me in my tracks mid-technique. It was so weird how it happened. But I was like, oh, we're in a jiu-jitsu school. They have to have ibuprofen. And I walked over to our school owner. I was like, hey, can I get some ibuprofen? He's like, you know what? I actually don't have any. I'm like, what? How do you not have any ibuprofen in the school? Like people get come in sore. They come in injured. You know what I mean? Like headaches happen, dehydration. Like maybe we should get some on the side, like you put a quarter in and you get a handful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's no shortage of ibuprofen at our school, because there's a bunch of older guys. We call us the old man crew, right? And we're all above 40. And so somebody's got Advil, aspirin, Tylenol. Everybody's got something in their bag rattling around that's, non-addictive, of course. You know what I mean?
Right. So you mentioned earlier that you were 47, you said?
47, yes.
Yeah, so have you noticed, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu, first of all?
3 years.
3 years? And over those 3 years, have you noticed, anything change with as you're getting older, and what was easier 3 years ago is harder now, or what was harder 3 years ago is easier now because you're more familiar with it?
I find, at first I took quite a beating. You know what I mean? I just wasn't used to it. I didn't know how brutal it could be. And my first class, I got tapped 20 times by a girl named Tanya, who weighed literally half what I weighed. And I was like, how is this possible? Right? Like, how can somebody do this? I thought I'd walk in and they'd hand me a blue belt straight off the bat.
Everyone does.
I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'll probably, be teaching class next week. So, that ego, that attitude, not knowing what to expect. And I got my ass handed to me over and over and over again. And I got used to the pain, I guess to get to your question. Everything hurt. I was 44 years old when I started. Everything hurt from day one. And then I think I just built up a tolerance to it, really. And that's it. There's nothing really easier or harder. I just got used to it.
Yeah, I think when you first start some of these positions or pressure, like we were talking about before we started press and record, these things seem so difficult to grasp. Like, how the hell am I going to get out of this? Or how do I get used to this? And then something, I don't even know what it is, like something just clicks and you're like, I'm not tapping to pressure anymore. You could put your entire shoulder into my face. I don't care. I am not tapping to that. I mean, Neon Belly was like, I always talk about it. Neon Belly was like my freaking kryptonite when we first started. Now I'm like, whatever, you're just going to squeeze a fart out of me, bro. Like,
there's one guy in our class. He's in the service as well. He's a really tough fellow. His name's Chad. and I think it was maybe my third or fourth class. And he goes, now this is what you call neon face. And he's doing neon face, neon sternum, neon ankle, like just tapping me with a multitude of odd submissions. I'm like, how do I get out of this? So I built up quite a tolerance to pain. And shit, I forget where I was going to go with that. Like I was telling you guys before we started, I had COVID, and it kind of messed with my memory a little bit. So if I veer off, to try to steer me back to where we were going.
I'm exactly the same, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, I have ADHD too, so if I start staring off, I'm not paying attention to you. It's my brain went somewhere else for a split second.
Yeah. I feel like after having COVID 3 times, I should be immune to it at this point. So I feel
3 times.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't stop kissing light poles and licking his hands. Yeah. So
at this point, it's like I have a cold. Maybe I should test. Oh, yep, I got it.
Yeah, like son of a biscuit eating bulldog, bro. Like, I never got it.
That you know of.
I remember now. I used to tap out to just pressure being on me. I would tap out. I'd be claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. I'd be freaking out in my head. And the way I got through that was I would start to count. If I can make it to the count of 3 before tapping, then I would, that's a win for me. That's really a total win. Because before I would tap immediately. Next time if I could count to 4, that's a win. Then 5, 6, 7. And before you know it, it's nothing. You're so used to it. Exposure therapy, right? You just get used to it. And just like anything else, if you're afraid of flying, go look at a plane. Then, get closer and closer. Then sit on it. To go for a flight, you'll be fine. Exposure therapy really works for me.
Yeah,
might not work for everybody, but it works for me.
That's really smart. I didn't even think about that. Like, that's a great tip for new people, is like holding on, like giving yourself a timer to, if you're in a position that's like extremely uncomfortable, like just 3 seconds. Like we talked about 3 seconds when we first got exposed to competition jiu-jitsu. Yep. Like 3 seconds is actually a long time, like in the moment. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it may sound when you're outside of the situation like it's not very long, but 3 seconds in a roll is a long freaking time, man. You could waste a lot of energy in 3 seconds.
Especially in a tournament. Tournaments, that blew my mind how different a tournament was to regular rolling in a gym. My first tournament, my forearms blew up so bad. I couldn't move my fingers. I had guys massaging my arms. I was out of breath. I'm screaming like, I can't do this. I can't go back out there. How can I go back out there? And my buddy's like, you got this. You got this. And he told me now afterwards in his head, he's like, he don't got this. He's going to get killed. He can't even breathe. But just like that, I built a tolerance to it. I'd go to another tournament. I did horrible my first tournament. Second tournament, double gold. Next tournament was a blue belt tournament. I did horrible. So the next one I do, if the trajectory is the same, hopefully I will do well at the next one because I know what to expect and I've exposed myself to it.
How long after you started did you compete the first time?
2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, too soon is what I said.
I don't know. Everyone I talk to that, just jumps right into it, it seems like they progress really quick.
Yeah.
Like, it helps them out a lot.
Are they a lot younger, though?
Oh, yeah, they're a lot younger. Yeah.
See, I think that's the magic there, right? When you're young, you don't care. You're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, right? Now I'm creeping on 50. I can't just jump into things like that anymore. I gotta dip my toe before I can slide in there.
Yeah, I've got a big joke. I joke around the gym. We have a school that we're not affiliated with that's in the same area, but they have a specific class, but it's only for 45 and up, where the rounds are 1 minute less, and like they do like a little bit of less like of the warm up. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, I'm almost there. I'm seriously gonna have to look at that. Like, in the classes earlier in the day, it's at like 4 versus 6. I was like, that all sounds good to me.
Yeah, we just hit 5 years of training. Actually, this last May was 5 years of training, and it's just crazy. Just
been that long?
It's been that long.
Wow.
And 2018 is when we started. Sorry, 4 years. Jesus, man, I can't get my time right.
I was 39, and I'm 44 now. So
yeah, so close. 4 years. We've been training for 4 years now, and it's just crazy how over that time, like, things change so much, especially in your journey. And competing is probably, I haven't competed. John's competed once, and we always talk to people about competing. And a lot of people say, like, if you want to further your jiu-jitsu faster, competition is probably the best way to do it, or just cross-training with other schools. Like, exposing yourself to people outside of your normal group is a great way to do it.
Oh, for sure. Because once you train with the same amount of people, you start to know little bits of their game.
Yeah.
So, you know, if somebody comes in from a new school and you're like, oh shit, that guy just whooped me, or I just smashed him. You might be wrong to think like that, but you can kind of gauge how you're doing compared to around you, because you're all rising at the same time at the gym.
Yeah.
Everybody's learning and getting better around you, so it's hard to gauge how good you are, right? So a tournament is a huge, I wouldn't say it's a gauge of how good you are, because some people have anxiety. Like myself, I have borderline personality disorder, I have generalized anxiety disorder. So it's really hard for me when I go to a tournament. My resting heart rate is literally like 140 before I step on the mat.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Like I'm gasping for air as soon as we clutch, right? So yeah, it's hard to gauge when you're training with the same people all the time. I'd say go to an open mat at another club, or go try a tournament. Tournaments aren't for everybody. You know, I might do one more. I'd like to do one at every belt level, at least.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. One at every belt level.
Yeah, I've heard a couple people say that. Do you feel like jiu-jitsu's helped with that manic anxiety and your borderline personality disorder? Do you feel like jiu-jitsu's kind of made you a little bit more level-headed because of
100%.
what we go through?
100%. It forces you to overcome obstacles. You can't just run away from things. Like in everyday life, if I'm, let's say I have a meeting with somebody, I would just cancel it before, instead of facing it head on, because I could cancel it. Well, I'm at the gym, I got 45 people around me, and a guy says, "Do you want to roll?" I can't say, "Nah." You know, they're like, "Why? You just got here." You know what I mean? Like I can't. There's no excuses. It forces you to tackle everything that frightens you, and you get through it. At least it does for me. It doesn't work for everybody. It works for me. I don't take medication for any of my mental illnesses. I use jiu-jitsu as my therapy. I'm not recommending that to anybody else, to stop taking medication. Talk to your doctor. But for me, it works really, really well. Keeps me very level-headed. I was incredibly suicidal at one point. I was very manic, and then very depressed, very, very, very low. I have what's called internal or quiet borderline personality disorder. I kind of got a feeling that the press, once the Johnny Depp trial was going on, that everybody thinks that anybody with BPD just shits on people's beds and acts fucking crazy like Amber Heard did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not like that. You know what I mean? Mine's more internal. Everything in my head, there's always some voice telling me, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this, you know what I mean? There's always something I'm combating inside me. So jiu-jitsu has leveled that right out. So like I said, during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, I don't know if everything was shut down where you guys were, but there was a point here where you weren't allowed to go in your car to go to the store. You had to either go to your doctor's, the pharmacy, or a supermarket. If you were caught going anywhere else, you could get a big fine. So that was brutal for me.
So interesting.
Luckily, yeah, it's crazy. But luckily, I have a buddy who's a brown belt, and he lives 5 minutes from my house, and he's got mats in his garage. So we beat the hell out of each other. Well, he'd mostly beat the hell out of me, right? For about 4 times a week for about 3 months, for a 3-month stretch there where we weren't allowed to have a shop open.
Yeah, it's tough because I wasn't a business owner, during that, and a lot of us are like, well, whatever, we'll buck the system, we'll do whatever. But as not being a business owner, like, it's a bit different, right? 'Cause
yeah.
if you stay open and they say you got to be closed, that's a different ball game. It's like,
yeah,
it's
here it was a $20,000 fine.
Whew.
Jesus.
If a gym, I believe, don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what I heard, that the health unit could fine you up to $20,000 for running while during a pandemic, during a shutdown.
That's crazy.
I was actually rolling in San Diego. I was like in the middle of a roll at a local gym there, and the health department walked in like while we're rolling, and it was supposed to be shut down. And they pulled the black belt, the owner, to the side, and they're like, "Hey, we're in the COVID pandemic. You're not supposed to be open." Da 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 da. On and on and on. He kind of like talked to him and shoot him out the door, and basically after that we just covered up the windows and everyone came in through the back, but.
Yeah.
But still, like, it is a risk, and I get it. But I think it's funny because I guarantee most of the people that go to that facility are willing to accept the risk to continue to train.
Yeah.
And, it's an interesting group of people.
Yeah, I cannot confirm nor deny whether any gyms in the area did the same. But I know that when we were allowed to be open, we'd have these crazy regulations where you could tape off as long as you're 6 feet apart from somebody.
Oh my God, the
be in
cubes on the mat, right?
Yeah, like
Same.
a 2 meter by 3 meter square, or 2 yard by 3 yard square, close enough, right? But then 6 feet away, there was somebody right there, and you were only allowed to have one person out of your 10-person circle. In Canada, we were allowed a 10-person circle, which you were allowed to be around. So you were allowed one person outside of that circle.
What?
And that was my training. I know. It's insane. It's insanity. It's crazy. But at least the part of Ontario where I live, that was the law. So, Jordan had everything according to health regulations. But I mean, it's right there. The person's right there. If you're gonna, none of us were worried. We're all in decent health, like physically.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be in very bad health and do jiu-jitsu and survive very long. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of it just
anybody with,
a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Like, you don't have to be a rocket
100%.
science to go, well, let me see. If I have to wear a mask to the dinner table, but then I can take it off at the dinner table. I mean, come on, really? A lot of stuff you just come on, it doesn't make any sense.
You can't catch COVID while you're eating.
Right. Yeah, it's like, come on, really?
Yeah, it's insane. I started off being, the perfect little Canadian, follow the orders that were given to us. But man, 4 months in, I was like, this is bullshit. I switched from I was pretty liberal, and now I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm in between now.
Right.
It's really opened my eyes, this pandemic has.
So when you got back into training after the shutdown and everything like that, was there a grace period of where you had your cardio was not as good, or you forgot techniques, or was there a grace period of refamiliarizing yourself with jiu-jitsu full time?
A very short one, because luckily I was able to train with that brown belt friend of mine in his garage for the 3 months that we were totally shut down. So we went pretty hard, and we focused mainly on leg locks. So that's where I learned a lot of my leg lock game. I can thank my training partner for that. But no, there wasn't very much of an adjustment period. We'd go pretty hard in the garage, so my cardio was just about the same. Maybe a couple of weeks, and I was back to where I was.
Were you still a white belt at this time, or were you already a blue belt?
I got my blue belt, it was August 2020. So, yeah, that was in the middle of the pandemic, yeah. Yeah, so when I came back, I was a blue belt, yeah.
Did you have any, when you were a white belt during this time, did you have what was the hardest thing for you when you first started training? What was the hardest thing to grasp in jiu-jitsu when you first started training?
Just all of it. It took me, it was everything was written in another language. It was like trying to read hieroglyphics, nothing made sense. I remember specifically this one day, Jordan was showing X guard to reverse X to the saddle, or 411, right? And in my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? I don't understand. This makes zero sense. Why would you go reverse after X? And then, my mind is on fire. And I'm like, I'm never going to get this. This is crazy. So I'm about a month and a half in, and I'm sitting there during class. I'm slumped over, and I felt this hand on my back. And there's a guy named Jake that went there, and I can thank him for this. He could see that I was about to quit. He could see that there was a point where, I don't know if you guys have seen this on people's faces, but you see guys who've been there for about a month, 2 months, and you can see this guy he's about to break. And I was broken at that point, and this guy noticed that. And I thank him every day for this, because he came and he put his hand on my back. He goes, I know exactly how you're feeling. You feel like you want to quit. You don't get this shit, and it's crazy right now. But believe me, if you just keep showing up every day, you'll get it. And then I was 2 months in, and I had that light bulb moment, that holy shit moment, where all of a sudden, oh my God, I understand what he means. And then I started to progress very fast after that. It was just crazy in my mind. It was like I got it. A puzzle piece just slipped in, and all of a sudden, I understood what all this stuff meant. Not all of it, obviously,
right.
But up to the point where I was, it just made sense to me now.
I definitely think if you can last 2, 3, I think 6 months is the point where you're you're pretty familiar with a lot of concepts in jiu-jitsu, and you can understand jiu-jitsu to a level of being able to ask questions that are meaningful, right? When you first start, you know, you get asked all the time, like, do you have any questions? And you're like, I have no base of knowledge to ask a question. Like, everything is a question to me. You know what I mean? Like, I need to see a technique 15 times and do it 300 times, and then I might have a question. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard for beginners to ask questions or even grasp concepts or ideas that are not just as simple as put your hand here and put your weight here. Even putting your weight in is hard to understand sometimes. Like I want you to, like, I was working with the new white belt on Wednesday in our beginners class, and he was in side control, and just the simple thing of, like, he was too far over on his side control, right? Like, his head was completely away from my center line, and I was like, man, you don't want to go that far over, because it's really easy for me to just reverse you and take side control to you. I was like, you really just kind of want in center line. And he was like, oh, no one mentioned that. I was like, yeah, it's just like something that you kind of just learn from trial and error.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've when I had that light bulb moment, everything clicked in, and it's gone pretty smooth since then. Actually, the first couple months was just terrible. But I do that too. I'll be helping somebody out, and they're like, I don't get this, and I'll show them, I'll explain some things to them, and then they're like, okay, and you can see it slowly starting to, okay, and then boom, you see them roll, and then you got your prodigies, right? Where there's a couple people in our class right now that you show them a move once, and they'll tap you with that, like, the next roll, and they're lower than you in rank, but they just pick things up so fast, and it just clicks. I wish I had that sort of brain. My main training partner, Alexi, we mention him on the podcast a lot, because he's just one of those guys that he was there, I think, like, we wanted him to have his blue belt at, he got his blue belt about a year and 2 months. But I mean, in our eyes, he was a blue belt at below a year. Like, really? To the other guys, he was hanging with us, no problem, tapping us too. Yeah.
I used to get hung up on the names a lot, you know? They'd start naming everything, and I was like, I've never heard of this stuff. And I was trying to remember every name, and I was like, whatever, it's in Japanese. I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I found it was actually easier for me to learn when I stopped trying to give everything a name or trying to remember the names. And I like what about our instructor now is people ask, like, hey, what move is that? And he's like, I don't know, but it chokes you. And I was like, he won't, he won't give everything a name. And I'm like, I like that, because it, I don't know, it frees up mental space for me to just remember the technique.
I used the word Keisakatami. I was like, oh, so we're going to go side control Keisakatami. And he's like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, scarf hold. He's like, sure. Yeah. Side control number 2, whatever you want to call it. That's where we're.
No, I totally get that. I forget half the names of stuff, especially, like I said, memory's shot lately. But I couldn't imagine being at, like, 10th Planet, where everything's a completely different name. Like, some of the names are so cool. I love it, right? But, like, I love doing their lockdown system. I love that. When I was a white belt, I hyper-focused on lockdown to electric chair submission, and that worked very, very well for me. It usually works very well once, and then the person hip to it, and then you can't catch them with it anymore. Like, at least in my experience, I've tapped out high-level guys with it, and then only once. They're like, what the hell is this banana split shit you're doing to me right now? Like, you know what I mean? And they're like, okay. And then they'll just maul me after that, and they know how to stop.
I remember it's so funny you bring up 10th Planet stuff, because that is how quintessential is that white belt days of, you're like, I'm going to go learn as much 10th Planet stuff as possible, even though it's not always going to translate perfect into, like, gi or no gi when you're not in that system. Because I remember the same thing, like, our buddy Phil, he found Eddie Bravo's lockdown system to electric chair, and it's funny because he tried to hit that on me one time, right? He got me on the lockdown, and then he went to go electric chair me, but he was so freaking strong, he ended up calf slicing me with his lockdown. Not even, it wasn't even an electric chair. He just calf sliced me with, like, the pressure. And I was like, bro, I was like, I don't even know what you just did, but my calf almost ripped in half. He's like, what? I was like,
I've had that happen to me too.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because people when they first start, they, like we just said, like they go into that whole Eddie Bravo's, you know, rubber guard and whatnot and these things. And it's like, look, man, how about you just understand even more of the basics before you go into some of these systems that he comes up with, because they are very elaborate and they do translate a lot into another. It's a, you know, it's a whole system. Like the 10th planet, like everything can flow into another. And how about you just learn how to break someone's guard before you go into rubber guard or something like that? Like, that's just how I see it. What about you, John?
Well, that's what the black belts would tell me at the gym. I'd be like, hey, you know, I learned this online, this lockdown to this and that. And they're like, do you know how to, you know, do a proper, you know, X, Y, or Z move? And I'm like, I guess I don't. Maybe I should get the fundamentals down before I start veering off. I love YouTube for learning. I think it's fantastic. I even learn a lot from, Jesus, Jordan's my instructor, and I learn a lot from his videos because it just drills it into my head. Because sometimes in class there's, you know, 40, 45 people there, and you can't get like singular attention all the time, right? So I'll watch his videos afterwards, and it just drills it into my head. Don't let them grab your head. Get your underhooks. You know, even as a blue belt, I should have already known that stuff, but it just keeps drilling it into my head, and I love it.
Well, I think at the blue belt level, I'm continually telling myself that I should know better than that. I should know better than that. I should know better than that. But whatever. I mean, you know, like it's just how it is.
Completely agree.
How do you guys find when you got your blue belt? Did you guys find like you had a target on your back from the white belts? Like, did they go harder on you? Did anybody go harder on you as soon as you got that different colored cloth around your waist?
I think they might have done a little bit, but when we got our blue belts, our school was still really small, even smaller than it is now. And so after we got our blue belt, it was pretty much a whole school of white belts anyways. We only had like 3 or 4 colored belts. Not even like we had one or two blue belts. I think it was husband and wife were blue belts.
That was it. Yeah.
And then a purple, and then 2 purples and 1 black, and that was all our color belts, and like 300 white belts. It wasn't that many, but you know what I mean. Like it was a sea of white belts, and so a lot of us started together, so we were already kind of going hard on each other and whatnot, and it was more along the lines of like, we were just the first group to get our blue belts, and then it was kind of like a succession after that of like everyone that started pretty much got their blue belts relatively close to each other. So I don't feel like there was a target on our back per se, but maybe I put my target on my own back. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, all right, now I'm a blue belt. Now I can't let my friends get me because my belt's different colors. Even though yesterday it was a stalemate and we were going back and forth, now all of a sudden my blue belt makes me have more skill. You know what I mean? In my mind. Yeah. So that I think honestly it was probably more of that than them putting the target on me. I had an idea in my head that I was no longer allowed to be tapped by my friends.
Well, that's the point I was kind of getting at, was when I first got my blue belt, I felt like if I get tapped by a lower belt, I can't let that happen. I can't let that happen. But that's a terrible mentality to have, right? Like the first time I got tapped, I was like, oh, this sucks. But now I use it as a learning experience. You know what I mean? Like it gets rid of that ego that you have. You can't have any ego when you do jiu-jitsu. Or, I mean, you got to have a little bit of ego. But, I mean, I had an overbearing ego. When I got my blue belt, I felt like I should be able to do this. I'm a different color. I should be able to do X, Y, or Z. And I get tapped. And now I'm happy when somebody lower than me gets tapped. Because if I show them a move and they tap me with that move, it makes me so happy that I taught them something and they can tap me with it. I've done a complete 180.
Yeah, one of our buddies, Justin, he's been doing jiu-jitsu since day one pretty much with us, and he's a no-stripe white belt. And it's just because he has consistency issues because of injuries and like work and stuff like that. And so he's never really been there for promotion nights, honestly. Like he's always busy during promotions night. But he's been doing it just as long as I have almost, and he got me in a guillotine the other night, and it was a good one. Like I was like, oh shit, like Justin just tapped me, bro. It was like I went into I was just messing around, you know what I mean? I went in to shoot, and he was like, zoop. Zipped it up real quick, and I was like, all right, that was good. He's like, I'm so sorry, did I hurt you? I was like, no, that was good. Like that was legit. Yeah. I had to tap because 1, the pressure was insane, and 2, it was like gritting my teeth. You know what I mean? Like that feeling where you're like, oh, this really hurts. I should probably stop this.
Yeah, I don't feel like the separation is that large between a white belt that's been doing it for a couple of years and a blue belt that's been doing it for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So like it doesn't bother me. And man, when I was like, I wish they would give these guys their blue belts. You know, Keegan and Jack and all those guys. I was like, give them their blue belts because they are way too hard to roll with. Like, you know, like hook them up.
Exactly what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. It was like I was saying, a guy named Alexei. We were all hoping he'd get his blue belt soon because he's tapping all of us. We're like, holy shit. You know, like give this guy his blue belt. And he ended up doing it. But with him, when he was a white belt, I'd show him how to do a heel hook, and I said in my head, the first time he heel hooks me with it, I'm going to be so happy that something I showed somebody, he can get me with it, and he got me with it. You know, like 2-3 weeks later, and I was so happy. It made me so proud. That's why I love showing people techniques, and hopefully someday when I'm a black belt, I'll love to teach as well. You know?
What was your blue belt promotion like? We haven't asked this question in a while. Does Jordan test, or is it kind of just on the spot? You're like, boom, here goes your blue belt. It's
pretty much when he feels you're ready. We do have grading, maybe a couple times a year, where the whole class sits around and everybody, you know, people get stripes and belts and stuff like that. But I mean, normally it's if you deserve a blue belt, he gives you a blue belt. I'm 99% sure of that. The one day I did very well. I was a 4-stripe white belt. I did very well. I ended up putting a guy out from another class, from another school. He was a couple belts above me, and put him out 3 times in a row. And one of the black belts said, I found this out afterwards, said to Jordan, I think Mike's ready for his blue belt now. You know, like he's doing pretty well against, you know, the blue belts. He's hanging with them pretty well, and sometimes, you know, he gets lucky with the higher belts too. And so I think they had a conversation, and Jordan was like, okay, there you go. You know, he's ready for it. So it's pretty much when he feels you're ready for it.
Do you think that we had to test for our blue belts, right? It was a big, extravagant.
It's an hour-long
class of just us getting our ass kicked for an hour, and just everyone in class cycling through us and having to do 10 different techniques of takedowns, 3 side control escapes, he would call things out and we would have to do something that we know from that position. Do you think because of like your anxiety and stuff like that, that you would not do as good in a situation like that? Because that's kind of like where we go back and forth about it. Like,
I hate it. I told them I'll never show up again. If they tell me I'm going to test on a day, I'm not going to that day. I'll pass.
Yeah, I would freak out. I wouldn't know what to do. I was even getting anxiety while you were saying that. I was imagining a circle of people, and then me in the middle, and somebody says, hey, do Uchimata, and I'm like,
what the hell's that?
I could do that yesterday, but now that everybody's watching, I can't do jack shit.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the part that kills me, is the pressure of everybody. Even when I'm rolling with somebody and you hear somebody from the sidelines yell,
John's favorite,
throwing a guillotine, and the other person's coaching the other person, and I'm like, holy shit, there's people watching me, and now I really have to perform. You know what I mean? It just makes my head go crazy.
Yeah, my wife and kids are in the stands. Come on, Daddy. I'm like, this is horrible.
Leave me alone. Turn your back. Don't look at me. So how do you do during competition? Do you like when like people coach you during competition, or you like, shut the hell up, let me do my thing? Like, you're just making it worse for me.
Well, my first tournament, I couldn't hear anything. Everything, it's like I was looking through a tunnel. My ears were ringing. I couldn't hear anything. And I just basically blanked out. So I don't even know what that was. I don't even know what happened there. Close to passing out almost. Just some guy on top of me hugging me for 5 minutes. And I heard muffled voices and was looking through a peephole. It was so strange, right? So, tournaments are really rough for me. But like I said, I got used to I knew what to expect for the next one. So the next one I performed a lot better. But yeah, they're terrible for me. Tournaments are torture for me. But I want to do them because standing on that podium at the end with your medal, or even not, just going to the tournament, afterwards you always feel better. You feel great after a tournament.
So
win, lose, or draw.
I'm kind of the same way. So, what I like it is if it's a fear or something I don't like, I want to face it, and then I feel better afterwards. So for me, like with the competition, is I knew I wasn't going to like doing it. So instead, I went and watched one first with the guys at our school that were doing it, so I could know what to expect. And then once I knew what to expect, it was a lot easier.
For sure. Yeah.
I was like,
how did you? You said you did a tournament. You went to one tournament before.
yeah, I've just done the one. I went and watched one first, then I went and did one, and you know, it wasn't that bad per se. I think it was definitely a different experience from the gym. I don't know if I'll do it again because I felt like it took me like 6 months to recover from it. Like I think I dug some hooks in so hard I might have tore like my groin. I was like, man, it was like pretty rough on the body, you know.
Oh, especially you were at white belt when you did this tournament.
Yep.
Especially at white belt, I noticed that everybody is so stiff. You'll see people grab each other and their arms are stiff. Everybody, it's crazy.
Elk locking horns, bro. That's all it is. It's just like, and they're just 100%. Going back and forth.
And at the wide-eyed, crazy stare, people just like, they don't know what to do and they're freaking out. And you hear coaches screaming. It's like just a perfect storm of anxiety, right? So, but that's what I wanted to get past. And so I forced myself to do it. And I'll force myself to do it again. You know, and hopefully that'll make it that much easier. Because now I can go into a restaurant and sit down, and the clanging of people cutting their food and the TV over here and the discussion over there doesn't make my brain feel like it's on fire because I just went through a tournament and I had a man try to strangle me to death. You know what I mean? So it makes everything else in life so much more tolerable. That's where it's helped me with anxiety and with BPD a lot.
Isn't that crazy? To think in your head, like, this dude almost trying to choke me unconscious actually makes me more level-headed. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a crazy idea because to the people that don't practice jiu-jitsu or don't participate in the gentle art of folding clothes with people still in them, don't understand, like, there's a lot of mental therapy that comes through going through this adversity, even with your friends. You know what I mean?
100%. I'm way more level-headed, way calmer person. Like I said, I can tolerate things. If I used to walk into a room and if a kid was screaming and crying and the TV's on, I'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm going crazy." But now it's just another day. You know, I can make it through what a normal day at the gym. I can make it through this, no problem.
Do you think because you train so much, it also helps a lot more? Like if you trained less, you might have a little bit more of that adverse anxiety?
Oh, for sure.
Really?
For sure. If I miss a day, I start to regress immediately mentally. The only day we're not open Sunday. So even the Sunday that we're not open, like I'm like, oh my God, I really miss.
You're like putting blinders on, headphones on. You just sit in your room, pitch black. Just
I'm watching YouTube. I'm watching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. I'm watching, Eddie Bravo versus Hoyler Gracie too. I'm watching everything to do with Jiu-Jitsu. I'm 100% obsessed with it. The only reason I don't go do 2-a-days on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday anymore is because of the price of gas. The price of gas is so high, I can't afford to go in. Oh my
God, isn't that crazy, man?
It's insane.
It's like, super high up there right now for you guys too?
Yes, like $2.20 a liter. I don't know what it is a gallon there for you guys.
We're out down near like $6.
Yeah, about $6 a gallon. So
yeah, I'm looking at getting an electric bike at this point. Like,
yeah, man. I'm going to invest in a Tesla or something because it can't keep going this way. It's crazy.
I agree.
So you have a pretty sick beard. Do you feel like that gets in the way of you training at all? Do people like grab onto it and they're like, this is a grip like your belt now? Or
yeah, nobody's ever grabbed onto it and used it as a handle. I don't know how I'd feel about that. I don't think I'd like that very much.
There you go. Somebody try it. Now we'll know.
I have had people say, while they're trying to do a rear naked choke, am I hurting you? Like, am I pulling your beard? I'm like, nah, man, go ahead, choke away. Whatever happens, happens, right? Like, people are more, they're asking me if I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me at all.
Do you braid it or anything before class? Like, how do you prevent it from getting in people's mouths?
Well, that'd be intimidating.
They just have to... they just have to accept that they're going to get some air in their mouth probably. There's one guy in class, he sweats so much. I sweat a lot. Like, I mean, I'm a really heavy sweater, but this guy, and he'll admit it too, so it's not like I'm, talking shit behind his back. Whenever he he rolls with somebody, it's like an oil wrestling match. It's
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Sweat in my eye, my ear. The ear's the worst. It's worse than the mouth. Definitely worse than the mouth. The ear, because you can't get that shit out. The mouth, you just spit, right? But when you get 2 or 3 drops of sweat in your ear, you're like, this shit's going to be with me for a while. You know, that DNA's in there.
Oh, my God.
That's the worst part. I'd take that over a beard brushing up against me any day. I'd take the beard against that any day.
The worst I had was a salty toe that like literally went to the back of my throat. I was like, oh my God. That was the worst.
We had a black belt. We had a brand new black belt come from class, from another gym to our class, and he was wearing a blue and orange gi. It was blue and orange rash guard. So I thought he was a blue belt. It was a Pokemon rash guard. I had no idea he was like a high level black belt. So I'm rolling him. I'm like, why is this guy kicking the living shit out of me? And he's the same rank as me. But the first thing I did, I went to push him away, and his mouth was open. I stuck my finger halfway down his throat, gagged him, and he's like, I was like, sorry, dude. You know, I just felt like such an asshole after that. You know what I mean? Like, but I punched Jordan in the face countless times. And I thought, oh my God. He's like, dude, I get hit harder than this in MMA. That's nothing. He's just used to it, you know? But accidents like toes in the mouth and fingers being rammed down people's throat. I think that happened quite a bit to everybody.
Well, so we can't help with toes in the mouth or fingers in the mouth, but hair we can't help with Manscaped, right, John?
That's true. That's true.
So summer is coming and the sun is shining, shirts are off, and your balls are smooth. You heard that right. Your friends at Manscaped are here to make your bench...
Come on, man.
Your beach balls are smooth and Floridian sand. As smooth as Floridian sand. Jesus Christ, this stuff is ridiculous. In the summer, you want to kill some cold beers and barbecues, not kill the vibe with pubes peeking out of your swim trunks.
Unless it's the 60s or 70s.
Oh, my God. That's why Manscaped has their Performance Package 4.0 to keep the party in your pants looking crisp and refreshing all summer long. Dive head first into the summer by joining 4 million men worldwide who trust in Manscaped. And get ready for a hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with code
ETP 20%.
That's right. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to prepare for the summer. There, Mike, just letting you know. Inside this package, you will find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Ball deodorant, which is great in the summertime. I'll tell you that right now. It's like 80 degrees yesterday, and my balls were feeling crisp and chafe-free, all right? The Crop Revive toner, performance boxers, and a traveling bag to hold all the goodies, right, John?
Yep, and don't forget you get a 4000K LED spotlight.
That's right. I mean, which really helps when you're trying to see the pubic hair as you're shaving in the shower, because the Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof, which is really nice. I don't recommend doing it in the shower because sometimes it clumps up and you might nick yourself, but it is nice to have that light. So Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag, which will bring your comfort to a whole nother level, which is actually really nice because I stole all my Manscaped stuff in that Manscaped bag that comes with it. It's pretty nice. So you want to take your grooming further? Take a look at Manscaped Shears 2.0 as a package and has everything you need to look pristine: nail cutting, tweezers, and grooming scissors. The Performance Package... With Performance Package, your balls will be ready to impress, but make sure you cover the rest with the Shears 2.0, and you'll be ready to perform head to toe.
So get 20% off plus free shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. This is the summer to turn your package into the full package with Manscaped.
Thanks, Manscaped. All right. Sorry about that.
I'm sold.
Look,
I'm not joking.
See,
I'm not joking. I'm gonna buy one after this. I'm not even joking. That sold me. That was amazing.
ETP. I'm telling you, man. If you get that this is not even like an ad. Like no longer the ad. I think the Performance Package 4.0 is the best bang for your buck, man. You get so much good shit in there. And even if you don't use the trimmers for like your beard or whatever, like if you want to trim up your chest hair or armpit, leg hair, whatever, they're great. You know what I mean? So, and then you get all.
I just got one of those $20 jobbies from Walmart, and man, they cut they cut. They just put that cutting. It ain't fun.
Manscape has that skin safe technology,
Yeah.
so it's less likely to nick you. So it's quite nice. So
no joke, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna buy as soon as we get off here.
I appreciate that. I mean, with a beard like that, I can imagine you might be a little hairy. You know.
Yeah, 100%.
We used to always joke when we first started, and Travis would roll. He never wears a rash guard, and he would slide this hairy nipple all the way up to your mouth, and you'd you're turning your head, whatever. Like, no, it was horrible.
Yeah, that's back when I was fit and in shape. Now my dad bod, I'm like, I ain't trying to put my jelly rolls in someone's mouth like it's a dessert. You know what I'm saying?
Well, before, if you watch our podcast, Jordan Talks Jiu-Jitsu, the BJJ Joey, he's a black belt as well, and he has a movie. When he used to be about 225 pounds, he's about the same height as me. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's doing a tournament coming up. He's about 160 pounds now. But when he was 220, 225, he'd do a move called Mother's Milk, where he would just lay his belly on your face.
Oh my gosh!
You know, you couldn't get out, and you said, "What the hell is that?" Mother's Milk, and he would just tap you with that. I've tapped that. Mother's Milk is horrible.
Not anymore, though, right?
No, not anymore. Can't do that anymore. He's trimmed right down now.
What do you think has been your biggest lesson learned since you started jiu-jitsu?
Humility. Humility. To be able to not have an ego, to put somebody else's safety in front of my own. You know, just stuff I should have known before. Right? Stuff that I grew up without very much. Mother died when I was really young. We didn't have a lot when I was growing up, so I didn't get a lot of life's lessons, right? So I had to learn things the hard way. I really wish I had Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was a child. But yeah, I've learned a lot of life's lessons in my 40s that I should have known in my 20s. That's why I don't go by my first and last name online. I go by Uke Mike, because I'm a whole different human being than I used to be. You know what I mean? Like before I wouldn't go out of my way to help somebody. I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. And jiu-jitsu has shown me and given me honor and respect, and it makes me appreciate everything. It's so weird. It just makes me appreciate life so much more. And like I was saying earlier, it literally has saved my life, 100%. I know people throw that around a lot. Jiu-jitsu saved my life, and I know it's almost becoming like on Discord, on Jordan's Discord, somebody was saying that's soccer would have changed your life too. Well, for me, it's jiu-jitsu. It literally saved my life. Yeah, it's taught me to be a kinder human being.
Yeah, John brings up a good point all the time. Like, the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is there's no hiding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have to face those demons and those adversities, and how someone handles it is a true show of character, right?
Oh, for sure. Like, you're not hiding anything on the mat. You know,
No, the mats don't lie.
100%.
You can't act like a badass tough guy, and then you're like, okay, let's go roll, and then you have to be a badass tough guy if you're going to act like one. You know what I mean? Like it'll show who you truly are right away, and if you stick with it, it'll change you. It'll make you a better human being in my eyes.
All right, Mike. Well, since we're having technical difficulties, we'll go ahead and just end the intro or the interview right there. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're like super self-conscious about it when we were leading up to this. I think you did a great job. One of those times when your internet first cut out, I literally told John, I was like, this guy is crazy, because you flowed great. You had great answers. It was an amazing conversation. I'm sure a ton of people at home are going to find a lot of value in what you have to say and how honest you are with everything that we went over today, man. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It was an honor to sit with you and Robert Downey Jr.
I'll send you an autograph, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So if you could give one piece of advice to a white belt, what would it be?
It would be, quickly, it'd be a two-parter. It would be slow down, relax, don't use all your strength, and stick to it. You know, don't go at it like a bat out of hell. Just enjoy the journey. You're going to be a black belt. You're going to be somewhere in 10 years. You might as well be a black belt. Just take it slow. Don't use all your strength for everything, and relax. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, enjoy the ride, man. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. So
exactly, 100%. I couldn't have said it any better.
So if people want to follow you to get more of that amazing Uke Mike beard and everything, where can they find you at?
Like, what beard oil? Let's find it out.
I'm on Instagram. It's Uke.Mike on Instagram, uke.mike. I'm easy to find there. And this is all natural, baby. I don't use any beard oil.
And you're the co-host on Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu too, right? If people want to go check that out, where can they find your guys' podcast at?
It is on everything. Google, Spotify, everywhere you can find a podcast. Jordan Talks Jiu-Jitsu is on there. Plus, we have a YouTube channel. It's under Jordan Preisinger.
Perfect.
For the podcast specifically.
Yeah.
And watch his YouTube channel, Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu.
Well, Mike, once again, thank you so much, man. This was greatly appreciated. I had a blast. It was a really good conversation, man. You're super down to earth, and can't thank you enough. So, John, you got anything else?
No, man. Thank you. Fantastic.
Yeah, you did a great job today. So, thank you guys for listening at home. Thank you for watching at home. If you're still here on YouTube and you see the picture, this was a whole lot of fun. So, remember, no oil checks here.
Oof.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.